Everyone loves a good mystery, but what happens when a mystery remains a mystery? The disappearing cases are always heartbreaking incidents, especially for the families of missing persons. In today's Mysterify video, we'll tell you about the scariest and creepy unsolved missing person cases. Let's get started with number 10, the Asha Degree case. Asha Degree was a sheltered 9-year-old girl who went missing at the age of 9 from Shelby, North Carolina. Her disappearance was frightening, as she had no access to a computer or internet, did not have a cell phone, had friends who were from school or church, and never interacted with anyone who could be called unknown. For reasons unknown, Degree packed her book bag and left her family home on February 14, 2000. A driver on the highway saw a little girl run into the woods, and if it was Degree, that was the last time she was seen alive. Candy wrappers, markers and a hair bow were later discovered in the woods. Her backpack was found a year later buried in the ground. The Degree was never seen again. 9. Antoinette Cayedito. On April 6, 1986, a 9-year-old Native American girl, Antoinette Cayedito, vanished from her home in New Mexico. 5 years later, Antoinette's then 10-year-old sister Wendy finally revealed the events of that night. According to Wendy, the sisters were awake at 3 a.m. when somebody knocked on their door, claiming to be Uncle Joe. When Antoinette opened the door, 2 men grabbed her. 1 year later, a panicked young girl called the police department claiming to be Antoinette, but an unknown adult ended the call before she could reveal her location. 4 years later, a waitress believes she met a teenage girl matching Antoinette's description. She was with a messy-looking couple and left behind a note asking the waitress to call the police. Police assume Antoinette was a victim of a homicide, but the case remains open. 8. Natalie Holloway. In May 2005, 18-year-old American Natalie Holloway disappeared while on a high school graduation trip to Aruba. Her classmates last saw Natalie outside a restaurant with locals, Joran van der Soot and the Calpo brothers. When Natalie missed her flight home, authorities began searching for her. Aruban investigators and the FBI conducted an exhaustive search but couldn't find Holloway or any clues. Suspicion fell on Soot and the Calpo brothers. Police arrested the 3 but had to let them go for lack of evidence. Later, Soot went to prison for the murder of Stephanie Ramirez. 7. Dennis Lloyd Martin. It was Father's Day, and the Martin family had a long-established tradition of going camping in the national park. It was in the late afternoon, and Dennis and his friends were playing hide-and-seek and decided to each take their own spots to hide. The parents watched as the 3 boys, playfully pranking their parents, went their own ways to sneak behind the bushes to perform a sneak attack not too far from their parents. When Dennis never performed his scare attack with the other 2 boys, William, his father, got worried and decided to go look for him. The search quickly turned agitated, and not a trace of Dennis has been found since. Dennis Lloyd Martin was just 6 years old when he suddenly went missing on June 14, 1969, in the Great Smoky Mountains on a camping trip. In the decades since, there has been no trace of Dennis, not a clue, piece of clothing, or even footprint. The search for Dennis was enormous and included hundreds of people, even the US Army. What happened to Dennis no one knows to this day. The theories include that he was abducted by wildlife in the area or possibly even feral wild people, but most people believe he was the victim of a kidnapper. The police have provided an age progression photo of Dennis to show what he would look like today, over 50 years on. 6. Madeleine McCann. In what the Telegraph called the most heavily reported missing person case in modern history, 3-year-old Madeleine McCann disappeared from a vacation home in Portugal while her parents ate dinner just 180 feet away in May 2007. Her 2 parents checked on her every half hour until 10 p.m. when her mother discovered she wasn't in her room and the window was wide open. People searched the small Portuguese town for hours with no luck, and the case remains unsolved to this day. McCann's parents were initially declared suspects by the Portuguese authorities, but they were later cleared, and the 2 have dedicated their lives to finding her. In June 2020, German authorities announced they were interviewing a suspect, Christian Bruckner, who is currently in jail and was in Portugal at the time of her disappearance. He is serving time due to a 2005 rape he committed. 5. Lauren Spira. The mysterious disappearance of Indiana University student Lauren Spira is one of the most famous missing person cases. In 2011, Spira went to Kilroy's sports bar with some friends. She was last spotted leaving the bar highly intoxicated later that night. Her disappearance sparked a media rage with several possible theories. For instance, her parents believe Spira's friends that night had something to do with her disappearance. Other theories include a possible drug overdose or abduction by a stranger. 4. D.B. Cooper. The identity of D.B. Cooper and his whereabouts have puzzled the police, private investigators, and curious minds for decades. In 1971, a man using the alias Dan Cooper hijacked Flight 305 and collected a ransom of $200,000. He then parachuted out of the plane and disappeared into the night sky. The event became a media sensation, with journos dubbing him D.B. Cooper. There have been several leads and suspects, but nothing conclusive. The police recovered some ransom money in the 80s, but the information went nowhere. The fate of D.B. Cooper and his identity remains one of the universe's greatest unsolved disappearances. 3. Emmanuela Orlandi. The disappearance of 15-year-old Emmanuela Orlandi is one of Italy's greatest mysteries. She's been missing for roughly 39 years now. The last time anyone heard from her was on June 22, 1983. Emmanuela and her family lived in Vatican City at the time of her disappearance. She was late for music school and was last spotted hopping on a bus. Later, Emmanuela called to tell her sister that she had a job interview. Emmanuela's sister was the last person to hear from her. Several theories emerged, including she was the victim of a Vatican sex party scandal. Other theories suggest Emmanuela was murdered by the Banda della Magliana gang or abducted by the far-right organization Grey Wolves. 2. Frederick Valentich. The mysterious disappearance of Australian pilot Frederick Valentich has baffled investigators and UFO enthusiasts for decades. On October 21, 1978, Valentich reported a strange aircraft above him during a flight. However, air traffic control responded that there were no aircraft in his area. Valentich was a UFO enthusiast and believed it was an alien spacecraft. Moments later, air traffic control lost contact with Valentich and never heard back from him again. UFO enthusiasts believe an alien spaceship abducted Valentich. However, investigators believe Valentich became disoriented and saw his own reflection in the ocean before crashing. 1. Colony of Roanoke. Early English settlers had set up a town in the New World on Roanoke Island, currently part of Dare County, North Carolina, and the colony produced the first English child born on the continent, Virginia Dare. What became of Virginia and the rest of the town, however, remains a mystery because in 1590 the settlement was found abandoned and its residents had vanished. There were 2 small clues left behind at the site. The word Croatoan had been etched into a gatepost leading to the fort, and crow carved into a tree. Scholars have guessed that war, famine, disease and death could have led to their demise. What do you think about why many people disappear and are never seen again? Have you ever wondered why these cases are more frequently reported till today, and have any sort of intervention of self-abuse, sex slave traffickism and human trafficking and smuggling? Let me share your thoughts in the comments section. That's all about today's video. We hope this video gives useful information. If you find this video useful, thumbs up and share it with your family and friends.